So we're on live now. Welcome to fascinating place. We're at the Californian Institute of Human Sciences in Encinitas. My colleagues Kimberly Shipke and Christina Smith are here. As you can see, this is the most wonderful historic space. You can see the AMI, the Apparatus Meridian Investigation, Motoyama's technology, and in fact this place has been for many years the center for research into subtle energy. So it really is an honor for us to be here, be invited here, and to do a demonstration of our new technology. So I'm going to kind of guide you. You're the fly on the wall with us, and you'll have to excuse the shuddering and juddering of me moving because this is a laptop I'm holding. I just wanted to show you the environment that we've created for the Biofield viewer imaging. As you can see, we're just using a normal room, but we light it with full spectrum lights. So you can see, for example, these bulbs up here are white, the ones behind there are more yellow. So we've changed these bulbs over to create, in this space where we're now all standing, very bright lights in front of us and a camera, a kind of cocoon of white light, full spectrum white light. And this allows us to see the interference patterns between the biofield and this environment which we've created. So apart from the lights and the white background wall, which we insist upon, we need a laptop or a PC of some kind. You can do this on Windows and Apple. As you can see, Kimberly has got effectively just the webcam that we recommend, the Logitech 920, connected with the laptop, and she's creating a file for our demo subject to be you know, in the right place, as it were. So what is Biofield Viewer? What is it that we're doing here? Why are you watching? So many questions. We believe Biofield Viewer is an important stage in the integration of healthcare. It's not certified as a medical device, and I'm not sure it ever will be, because it's just a lens. It's like a microscope or a oscilloscope. These things are scientific tools. They're not licensed to do anything particularly in terms of, say, diagnosis, but obviously the medical professionals who are empowered to use these different devices have their own licenses. Biofield Viewer is a video process which allows us to see field changes that we wouldn't otherwise normally notice. We actually discount them with our brain. And I think that's why they call clairvoyance what it is, because it just simply means clear seeing, and our brains are always manipulating what they allow to see. They discount it. So we're effectively re-allowing the brain and the perceiving operator to see everything that the camera can see. It's not a thermal camera, it's not an ultraviolet camera, it's just a camera observing inside the visible spectrum. So without further ado, I'll thank my subject for being a good sport. He's doing some meditations to prepare himself for this moment. And when he's ready, are you nearly ready for a... Great. Well, I'll be able to guide you around the procedure. What we normally do with Biofield Viewer is encourage our colleagues to have a very professional environment. The reason why that is because it's actually better for clothes to be removed, and that means that it's a very sensitive issue, and it needs to be handled correctly. We've actually made some important steps in making our technology usable by the with timers. So, for example, if there's concerns about modesty for a particular individual, they can actually be set up in the space to take their own images. Also, we can set up the system in such a way that the operator is not even in the same room or in the same space as the person who's having their images taken. And we do find in certain countries these types of requirements are very sensible and needed. So what is happening now is Kimberly is lining up the subject with her camera there. Our friend is standing against the white wall. We can already notice some shadow around him. That's artifact. And as you can see, as I line up more and more with him straight, that shadow actually is quite well handled by our environment. But we do need to be conscious of what we see around the top of the head and the shoulders in the image. So as I come now to seeing his field, obviously we're getting a completely different view on an individual. And as I come closer to our colleague, you can see, patterns and colors that are revealing the way that the light in our environment is falling onto his body and interacting with his biofield. And of course, every single person is different. The patterns we're seeing, just go back for a second, that was great. This is in our biofield viewer mode. And when Kimberly clicks over to Chakra Viewer, you can see we're basically kind of taking the image out of focus, averaging the minute changes between the different gradations, and so we get thicker bands of values, and it makes it much easier for us to see, for example, in the brow chakra. This gentleman is a serious meditator, and you can see a beautiful violet color in his brow chakra. He's also got a highly developed throat chakra, blue, and quite unique patterns actually. I can tell by his images that there's certainly some energetic work going on quite regularly. The symmetry we're seeing in the field is really quite strong, although there are patterns, obviously with hands up, for example, artifact can be shown, but still, what I'm going to ask my subject to do, you can see actually some interesting activity right now at the solar plexus. It's actually kind of opening up. There seems to be rather interesting process going on as he's going through his meditation. And again, I mean, this is quite advanced stuff that he's doing. So,
should we take a set of images?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to go through the whole process of taking a set of images.
And tell them what you're doing about how you're taking the images.
Yep.
Okay. So I typically take the first set of images in Biofield Viewer. Alfred, if you could put your hands by your side, is that possible? So you can see your abdomen. Here, and then I click onto Chakra to take a Chakra Viewer mode, and I also take an image there. Could you take a step to your right, please, and face the board?
She takes an image by hitting the space bar.
Exactly.
Changes the viewer mode by hitting
in and out of chakra mode.
In and out of chakra.
So I take an image by clicking space bar, I click into chakra, hit space bar again.
So if you're wondering what we're seeing on the arms as we go up, this is very much artifact, and you can see it in the subject directly when you look at him. It's a tan line which runs across here. So we must obviously be careful to analyze the image in great detail. We've also got quite a lot of energetic activity in the head, and we often associate these pink lines and pools with Kundalini activity. So when we see it pooling like this, it's definitely an issue, and obviously in the process that our subject is going through, he's moving and affecting the energy in his being. But this is something we'll talk about afterwards.
You see this energy moving at the back of his head and right in front of his brow.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's brilliant that we've got someone who's able to affect his own energy field so powerfully. But there are definitely some interesting signatures that, that we must talk about. So anyway, we have to keep going round to take a full set of pictures. So could I ask you to do a 90-degree turn, sir, with your back facing the camera now?
Small step to your right, please.
Yeah. Again, we've got this fabulous symmetry, but still markers of energetic changes and inconsistencies in symmetry that we must discuss and find out, you know, why these poolings are happening and so forth. So it's a very dynamic system. You can see these bands of light. This is not his field. These are the gradations of light intensity in my environment. What is visible is the interactions between him and the environment. So as he's moving around and energizing his field, there's a huge amount of changes going on here. So too is he affecting and changing the colors of his environment. And we'll see that especially when we ask him to step out of the environment. Okay, so could you take another turn 90 degrees? By doing this, it allows us not only to map the body in a sort of multi-dimensional way on a 2D screen, it also allows us to really make sure issues that we're seeing have integrity. They actually can be seen in all images from all angles, and therefore they're not going to be a shadow or something else. Shadows will drop away with movement. A real issue will stay where it is. Okay. So one more turn towards me, please, sir. That would be great. Now, we do the same thing with the bottom half of the body. In this case, we're going to just be working with our colleague's subject's top half of his body. And what I'd like to do is actually show, perhaps for the first time, our new 3D software. So as you can see, Kimberly is able to access this from the icon at the bottom of the screen.
The purple box.
Yeah, so why we're excited about this particular mode, subtle energy mode, is it allows us to perhaps see the Kirlian effect, the in 3D and live. Kirlian photography normally involves putting your hand or ear or foot on a charged plate in order for us to analyze the innermost etheric layer. But here you could quite clearly see we're able to do this now in video, and it allows us to see the very subtle activity that's going on in this etheric field. So for example, if you could kindly perhaps put your hand up for me and point it towards the camera. Yeah. Face it open like this, please. Yeah, like that. That's great. Now we can see very clearly the dynamic activity around his fingers. And obviously, as a person working with his qi and moving qi, he's been doing that during this session as a kind of qigong practice. It's not surprising to see such dynamic and vibrant energy. And of course, this is quite different, for example, from the energy that is visible on a cup. For example, this is a cup, so it's got a tree scene, but the only thing is because I'm holding it, it becomes an extension of my field. But there is a clear difference actually between the gradations of an object and of a living system. Living systems have a very dynamic and chaotic patterned field. And we can quite clearly see that. In fact, we can see the artifact of the hair on the body reflecting the light. But for example, certain points, certain areas are spiking, and we can zoom in. Oops, yeah, sorry. We can zoom in to investigate what's going on. So Albert, if you could do me a favor and now perhaps turn the full 180 degrees so we could have a look at your back. As you're turning, of course, this is a very interesting process. Obviously, in the normal 2D camera, we're seeing all of the different layers of the field. In this particular feature, we're analyzing just that etheric layer. But I do have other filters, which I'm going to show you now, and they allow me to see even more. Oops, pardon me. Good old Windows. No, you really got me. Okay. So when I go now to full body in 3D, we get the combination of the Biofield viewer with its gradations and full view and the 3D system. But it's a little bit confusing to see exactly what you're seeing. So obviously I'm keen to make sure that my new colleagues are as well trained as possible. But certainly what I will say is, if perhaps I can ask you to step over here a second, sir. I just want to look very closely at your arm now, your hand. So you keep that within the camera view. I'm going to go back into subtle body mode, because what I want to show you is the activity. Actually, I need to be in full. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. Has anyone worked this out? What? I'm going to go to high quality, and what happens is everything kind of stops and it goes into a very powerful rendering mode where maximum information is digested. And now perhaps for the first time we can actually clearly see the functional activity of the meridians as delineated in the fingers where they separate. And I think that, of course, is a huge contribution to scientific inquiry and allows us, as I said, to potentially embrace a much better understanding of integrative health and why there are limitations to the biochemical allopathic model. And certainly, Albert, I must ask you now to thank you, I should say, for contributing to our little project and allowing me to demonstrate with my colleagues the subtleties of the development of the Biofield viewer. So thank you very much, Albert. Appreciate that. Fantastic stuff going on, my gosh. Now, apart from the process of taking a set of images, we also have the very important job of interpreting them. And I'd like to think that in the first months that a practitioner is working with the Biofield viewer, they're quite happy to consider this a tool which is just observing their treatment modality. There's no expectation on my part that everybody has got the years of experience that I and others have in interpretation, but we can all observe. And what I find a fantastic way of learning is just to take lots of images, as many people as possible, some young, healthy types who just give us a baseline of what a healthy individual looks like, if there is such a thing, and then a number of different cases with perhaps different medical conditions, so we get some idea of how the field is structured and how it looks in advanced disease states. But generally, the healers that are working with our technology and the researchers who are working with our technology very much benefit from this time where there's not so much expectation, but at least they and the person they're working with get to observe these changes. And I think it's a very powerful way to open the channel of trust when a practitioner can see the biofield of an individual. When that individual can see the biofield themselves, they can relate to things they're feeling with what they're seeing. And then as the healing or the sessions, the modality used progresses, we can keep observing those changes. Biofield View is a live system, so you can have it on all the time when you're working with your subject and just grab and save images as and when. So at the beginning, in the middle, and after a session is perfectly reasonable. And of course, the technology itself doesn't have any expensive cartridges or film, so you can use it as much as you like. And that's why we've developed it this way, because we believe that there's a great imbalance, in the field of medicine, and it needs to be reset a little bit. Certainly, we're in a period where the norm is a biochemical model, and yet there's thousands of traditional methods around the world which predate these modern techniques and have been very successful at managing communities' health, for example, such as acupuncture. And yet, until quite recently, acupuncture was deemed just an experimental research tool. So we're certainly finding a need for a reset, and of course this is all based on our interest in health choice. You'll have to excuse the slight noise going on outside. Gary Schwartz has just been speaking on research into spiritual energies, quantifying research into spiritual energies. They've been using biophoton technology, and in fact the room next door is the Biofield, the biophoton counter room. It's a sealed Faraday cage, and they do some very high-level subtle energy research. And it's interesting that more and more scientists around the world are working with our technology to shed light in this, new frontier of medicine. And obviously, it's very exciting to be part of that process. Now, let's do some interpretation of some images. I'll take the case that we've just had a look at, and with his kind permission, I will speak about the images that we've just seen, and it'll give us an opportunity for, now the gongs are going, for us to get some practical experience. Okay, so the filing system is very simple in Biofield Viewer. We can create a folder for each subject so that they're not, their privacy is protected. These are the baseline images that were taken, and these are very interesting. I'm glad we've got those, and you can see the pattern of the gradation of light intensity in the room before the subject is standing there. Okay, so as we rise up, the next image is of our subject, and we can already see that he has enhanced the colors and patterns in that environment. Okay, so now when I look at this individual, what is most important in terms of interpretation is two things. One, we created a sort of concept which we call the focal point, i.e. what catches your eye when you first look at this image? That's the focal point. And for me, it would be this area. That's what catches my eye. It seems inflamed. Even I don't know what the colors are. It seems like that's a kind of an angry pinky red color, and it must indicate some kind of energetic stress. I'm also noticing in this image, and this is the second factor that's very important in analyzing an image, is symmetry. Now, initially, the symmetry in this image looks very well balanced. As we see on the left, we see on the right, but there are certain areas where there seems to be inconsistencies. Some very interesting activity at the brow center, for example. Now, this is a student of subtle energy activity, so I'm not surprised I'm seeing unusual patterns. For example, we love to see these thin lines which come down the body, but we are concerned when they're pooling and when they break up. As you can see, this one on the left arm isn't quite so consistent on the right, but there are lots of thin pink bands. So areas that have caught my eye as this would be the main focal point, the sort of upper chest and throat region, and then secondarily would be this region, which is asymmetrical from the opposing side, and I'd be interested to inquire further in these two areas. So let's have a look around the body, because it's very important that what we're not seeing, is artifact caused by shadow or body hair or standing. And again, this is a very interesting image. We can see the lovely blue color that we associate with the throat chakra. There is quite a lot of artifact on his chin. He has a stubbly beard, so that dark beard has created artifact, and that's why it's very important to be conscious of how your subjects appear. The third eye really is quite beautiful, and again indicative of this wonderful spiritual practice this gentleman's employing. The other artifact that we're going to speak about obviously is the chest hair, which is in this region and running down here. So this is also discounted as artifact. And that's why I say when the subject's there, you can ask them to move around, turn 90 degrees, and you can see whether something is an issue or whether it is artifact. Now I'm fascinated by this case because there's quite a lot of shielding in the heart region, and this kind of shielding can often happen when an individual has a relationship crisis, or they've been in a relationship which was hurtful for them and they're now alone. That's the kind of time we'll see this kind of shielding. Now I don't know whether our subject's in that position, and I think it would be perhaps inappropriate. Well, I'd like to, but yeah, we'll certainly get word from him. Is he single? I certainly think that is that certainly is what springs to mind. There's some shielding over the heart for some past hurts, and he's now going through that healing process. With reference to this pattern here on the right side, I would be questioning our subject about digestion, about diet, and about stress, because it seems to me that there is a little bit of disturbance in the energy associated with digestion, and that's a marker for me and him to have a nice conversation about his diet and how he's processing the food that he's eating. So this is how we assess an image. It's not all bad. In fact, it's important for us as practitioners to recognize that we're here to help people optimize their situation, optimize their health. And in a way, I've been a little bit nitpicking with this fellow because the symmetry and the vibrancy is very strong. So thanks for coming back. I'm wondering if you'd be so kind as to let me talk with you a little bit about your images.
Okay.
I've made a few comments already.
Okay.
And now the two of us can look over this screen at that screen,
Right.
and we can talk about things.
Okay.
Now, there's certain artifacts which I've just discussed. One is around the chest hair area and on your chin where you've got your French beard.
Right.
But obviously we've got beautiful blue in the throat chakra. That means that you're a great communicator. Really
Thank you.
fantastic communicator. And the fact that your brow chakra is so perfectly shaped, it means that you're very active in your intuition and your third eye. So you're a good guy to listen to.
Okay.
Because you're speaking from the right place and from a place of truth. Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's how you are. My concerns are a little bit different. My concerns are twofold. One, you've got rather a lot of shielding here over your heart chakra.
Sure.
And I'm wondering whether that relates to previous hurts and old relationships, or
well, the shielding part is it's intentional, and because I was going into trying just to flow with the energy, but you have to have a little bit of discernment where you are. You
Nice.
just don't want to open up all the time.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
so you're
careful.
actually conscious of this process. Oh, right, well, very interesting. I think that does follow up with what I'm speaking. Obviously, environmental things can affect this as well, smoking, exposure to,
Right.
you know, being in, you know, big cities.
Right.
But guess I'm now in chakra viewer mode as I look at this picture. It really is more on the emotional side. So I'm fascinated to hear you say you're actually doing that kind of on purpose, and that does go along with what we know about you, which is you're, you know, spiritually developed and an advanced practitioner working with your energy field. And the other thing is this slight symmetrical pattern down here.
Okay.
I'm wondering about your diet and your digestion and whether you get a little bit affected by stress with your digestion.
Well, I haven't had anything to eat since yesterday. And, the Chinese call it bigu.
All right, so you're fasting right now.
Yes. So
Ah,
a lot of liquids. You shower with teas. You meditate on energy follows intent. So you meditate on compassion. Think of compassionate things, compassionate memories, and you just try to relax as much as you can.
right, wonderful. Well, again, I think that does explain, you know, this anomaly that I'm seeing in your image, that you're actually fasting right now.
Right.
And so your digestive tract is probably going through a kind of cleanse and a detox right now, and that perhaps is what's being revealed. Certainly, it's a fascinating case. So what's your impression of our technology? What do you feel the benefit is from seeing yourself like that?
I'm looking at one picture, and I do think it's a fascinating picture. I've been meditating with a Qigong style for more than a decade, and you go through the process and you get benefits from it, but you're not able to see what's actually being turned on. Sometimes you get a little bit of a sensation.
Yeah.
But, like, for instance, in the hands, you feel the wind blowing through, and on the bottom of your feet, because your hands and your feet are antennas, your spine's an antenna, and you're actually absorbing the particles that are around your environment, the cube that we're in. And some people call it electrons, direct currents. Once that's absorbed, you store it in different places in your body, but it goes. It has a fundamental way that it goes up the spine, the kundalinis. Sometimes you feel one, sometimes you feel the bolt, sometimes you feel two, depending on where you sit down and you meditate.
Right.
It stops in the back, flows over the roots, growing roots, and it attaches in your third eye.
Right.
You can actually feel that,
Right.
because you become so sensitive to it. But fascinating to actually see the results.
Yeah.
You know, something sparking up there, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you certainly have very good reason to be happy. I mean, you've got a very symmetrical field, and everything I've picked up on is something you're very much aware of, and in fact, in a process of management. So I'm happy, you know, that this has worked out. I do a lot of live demos like this, and I'm always on the spot.
right.
You know, I could just get it completely wrong, but we never do. Because the picture speaks the truth,
Right.
you know, and we may need to probe at what it is that's the cause of the pattern that we're seeing. But I think it really does open, as I said, a channel of trust. You know
Right.
that I can really see you
Right.
as you are, and you trust that with that information we can journey together for your benefit.
Right. And the nice part about it is that in advance, I could calibrate, because that's what you do. You learn how to calibrate your hands, your feet, your skin, your thoughts. It's energy follows compassionate intent. And when you do the compassion, the energy is a lot stronger. If you do any other type of intent, then the energy's all over the place.
I love this guy.
So you do calibrate.
Well, that's brilliant. So listen, you were a student here at CIHS, weren't you?
Right.
And you still are?
I still am.
Oh, excellent. So you know this place very well. I mean, I remember coming here in 2004.
Right.
And I did a subtle energy devices workshop
That's right.
when Elizabeth was here. And it was great fun because all the students just suddenly had these new toys to play with. So we spent a couple of days setting everything up, doing pretty much what we're doing now, when this technology was in development. 10 years later, here we are, and this is now, how many conferences have we had? Is it 4 or 5? This is our 5th conference, and I remember standing in Dr. Harada's office 5 years ago and saying, you know, this place is beautiful, it's wonderful, but there's nobody here.
Right.
You know, you've got this incredible, and of course, coming from India, you know, we had to fight to have subtle energy labs at our university, and here's a whole campus dedicated to it. Yeah. And so Dr. Rada accepted my challenge, you know, we're going to fill this place up. And so obviously for 3 or 4 years we ran the conference as a joint venture, and then when Hope started, she very much felt this should be a CIH event, but has honoured us by inviting us and allowing us to freely come to the conference. And so we're very, very appreciative of our relationship and our bond. And in a way, you're a symbol of that.
Appreciate it.
You are, because you're someone who's come from other industries, you've entered into this field, you've got brilliantly trained and qualified, and now you're a mouthpiece for this important work.
It's definitely biofeedback, and that's the wonderful part about it. You could meditate for years, you could feel the benefits, you can have the changes, and especially in character and what the Chinese call Dan, depending on the type of the meditation that you use. But until you come into rooms like this where you have biofeedback, and you can see it, you start learning and saying, oh, that's what I'm feeling. For instance, at 4 o'clock in the morning when you're half awake and half asleep and you're almost at that delta zone, you're right in between those two ridges, that's where you want to be, and that's where you want to hold it as long as possible. With this, if you have it at 4 o'clock in the morning, then you know what you're feeling and what it looks like.
Wow. Well, perhaps we'll have to set up an early morning experiment around your place. But anyhow, I think, you know, we've given our colleagues a good understanding of what's possible. I'm going to be doing lots more of these live demonstrations, and it's so much fun. It's such a great way of sharing our technology with everybody and give people insights into what we're doing. Thank you very much to Kimberly, my partner, my colleague, for demonstrating, and to Christina Smith, our agent in California. If you're interested in getting personal training or doing any work with our technology, these 2 ladies are who you need to contact if you're in the United States. And obviously, I'm blessed to be in a team with them. In the meantime, over and out. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you soon.